Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and with me today is Laurel Hobbs, the author of a book called Broken and Made Whole, which we're going to talk about. It was during her fourth pregnancy and then 20 years of raising her disabled son that jettisoned Laurel out of the typical North American lifestyle and into a spiritually rich and unusual Christian journey. Devastated by her son's condition and her own brokenness, she began to actively seek help and comfort, which led to a powerful journey of transformation. And she's here with us today to talk about how God's healing and miracles are still available to those who seek Him. Welcome to the show, Laurel.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad to have you here. So let's start talking about how you came to write Broken and Made Whole. You know, in your book, you talk about how the pandemic gave you the time you needed to write your book, but how did you come to write it? And why do you think this book would help others?
Well, I've always been a journaler, even before I was a Christian. But after Jack died, I really felt that I was being led to write. And I tried several times, to be quite honest, and wasn't doing very well. And it wasn't until COVID happened that, yes, I had more time, but a young friend in his 20s was out of work, and he offered to help me. And so his technology skills and, I would talk, he would type. So that became the fast forward. So it was great, actually. Mm-hmm.
And what led you, though, to decide to write this book? I mean, here you are.
Absolutely. The Lord was making it clear, write the story, write the story, write the story. And I did find in ministry over the years, even when Jack was alive, that people identified with my situation, with him sometimes. People felt broken themselves. I was broken. They could see that. And I think it became a picture of endurance for people. And so their question was, how did you do it? Tell me. And so the stories are really that journey. And my hope is to sort of lead them along sort of the key phases, if you will, of my maturity as a Christian. I wish I had had a book like that when I had Jack. That would have been a big help. I would say I was a fairly typical, feminist, kind of new agey. I mean, I was a mom, but, I think I was pretty typical North American and knew very little about anything biblical. So it really became a search. And in desperation, a lot of people understand that. Mm-hmm. They hit a wall. We all hit walls here and there. So.
Now, you had a lot of people on your path. I mean, it's an interesting read. You had a lot of people that came to perhaps your rescue, we could say, people that were part of your journey, that mentored you, coached you, supported you, prayed with you, etc. But you've also been able to turn that around and be that level of support for other people, both through your experiences and what I would call your ministry. And you've also written this book now. Can you give us an example or talk about someone you've helped along the journey?
Well, there are many, and in many different ways. One story I like, it's actually not in the book, but it's a good story. I was at a Christian meeting, a large Christian meeting, and they were in a new location, and there was one tiny little bathroom and a very long line of women after the meeting. And I was standing in the meeting, in the line, and there was a woman in front of me that, you just look, and I noticed her. And I've learned to hear his voice, and he said to me, give the woman in front of you a mother's blessing. And that surprised me. And I, was a Christian meeting, so I knew she was a Christian of some sort, or at least a seeker. And so I told her what I thought I had just heard, and would she mind if I did that for her? And she looked surprised and kind of went, well, go ahead. And very simple prayer. I said, I just want to stand in for your mother. I am really sorry that I wasn't all you needed me to be. And sorry for my failures. Forgive me. I just want you to know I'm really glad you were born, and I'm proud of you, and I want to bless you. Oh, bless you, bless you, bless all that you are. Well, her eyes just flew open, and she said, "You have no idea what you just did." And of course I didn't, but she went to the washroom, I went to the washroom, and I ran into her at another meeting 4 months later. She is from Iran and grew up in a fairly affluent family, but her mother was mentally ill, and she had a horrible childhood and really suffered rejection and, all the distresses of a small girl trying to raise a disabled, or really she was the parent. And we've become friends, and, she's helped me, I've helped her. And it's interesting how a little thing can really help somebody turn a corner. She was having trouble as a new immigrant and a fairly new Christian. And so it was good. Yeah.
I'm just curious how often you get those instructions from the Lord, however you want to say it. You got a little download that said, I should do this blessing?
Often, actually. And not in the beginning. In the beginning, not so much. Then I was learning and, more seeking for myself. Mm-hmm. But the more I knew and the more time went on, I guess it really started with my children. Whatever I learned, I would download to them. And so they would ask for prayer and I would pray for them. And, so we all got used to it. And, the more, it's like anything, the more you do it, the better you are at it. Sort of like you have a lot of books. I mean, it's whatever you're focused on, you increase. And often now I don't have to hear that clearly. I just sort of know what I'm supposed to be doing. But sometimes it's very clear, which I love. And it's always unexpected. I can't make it happen. But being led is a very exciting adventure, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah. I'm just curious, you've been doing this work for a while now, been on this path, this journey, your walk. Have you found that there is a common belief or beliefs about God that you think a lot of people have that you know or think is untrue?
Yes. And I do think we're wired to look for God, however you define that. I think most people, and I think I thought this, is that God was perhaps like a bit distant and not terribly communicative. And, my little problems were not important to him. And why would he bother? More or less. And that's not true at all. And what I've learned is he even cares what I wear. It's very interesting. He cares when I go to sleep. He wakes me up. I don't use alarm clocks. He cares about everything. Yeah. So
I'm curious. Say more about he cares what I wear. How does that show up in your life?
Well, very interesting. Years ago, when I was fairly young Christian and was going to the Ottawa prayer breakfast in our capital. And I was quite excited about that. It's 5 hours from here, but I was just excited with the idea of being with ambassadors and government people. And it was a prayer meeting. The whole thing was exciting. I was running through a store and in a mall near us to get my niece a birthday present. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, "Stop." And I was like, what? And I thought, somebody I need to pray for? What's going on? And I heard a quiet look. And I looked, and there was a rack with on sale, very classy. I was running through a very classy store, a very nice winter white pantsuit that was very reduced. And so I went, it fit like a glove, perfect. And I knew he was saying, I want you to wear that to the prayer breakfast. And it was wonderful. It felt great. I've wore it a few more times after that. It was very interesting when Jack died. I wasn't sure if I was going to say anything at the funeral at all, or if I could. And I did in the end. But he told me, I want you to wear that suit. And pretty unusual to wear a white pantsuit to a funeral. But, he cares. He cares about symbolism, and he cares about a lot of things, actually. Yeah. Flowers. And he cares a lot about all the details. Yeah. He's a big God.
I'm just curious, what was the outcome of wearing the white suit? Did you talk about that? Did people notice it?
It was really just a symbol that I am not mourning the way the world mourns. I know where he is. I believe he chose to leave. He was very captive inside his body, and his brain worked. And he prayed, and he knew the Lord. So I think in many ways, he felt, and I don't know, I'll find out when I get to heaven, I assume. The Lord doesn't tell us everything. But I think he felt, my job has been done. We were a family of total unbelievers, and he had a huge impact. It was actually a huge funeral, which surprised me. He touched a lot of people without really my knowing about it. And so it was a picture of righteousness, and, heaven is a good place. That's home. And so it's all okay. It was very much a celebration as opposed to a sad event. Mm-hmm.
I know, I like that. The symbolism is beautiful. Almost like an angelic presence in white. Your book is full of stories and full of dreams. Why is that?
The stories, because I know when I became a Christian and started going to Bible studies, I did not know what they were talking about. I would sit there and go, And I'm well read, but there were a lot of concepts that I was not looking into. And stories help. And I know my brother-in-law gave me a book that is a novel from, I think, the 1930s. Called The Greatest Story Ever Told. And it's a novel of the Gospels, really, in Jesus' life. And I realized for the first time that Jesus really was the first feminist. And I was a feminist. And all of a sudden I thought, ooh, that's good. He's all for equality. I like that. So stories help people. They see different things and they can understand them. And hopefully draw people along. There's some entertainment factor. We all like that. Dreams, because, and I found this, I've always had very intense dreams, even as a child. And as life went on, I started to realize it was the Lord's way of bypassing my conscious mind. And he would sort of download information, sometimes symbolically, but often not. It might be very direct. And that really helped encourage me as much as anything, and began the hearing process. And now I don't have as many of those dreams, but I hear more clearly. So I don't need them as much. Mm-hmm. Anyway, in the Bible, of course, Joseph is told, get Mary and the baby out of here because somebody's trying to kill the baby. And of course, there's the slaughter that King Herod has of all the babies trying to find Jesus. And, they go to Egypt. All along, there's the dreams, get up and go, and marry this woman. It's okay. This is from God. So the Bible is full of dreamers and the importance of dreams. Daniel saved all the wise people and soothsayers in Babylon because he could, with God, and he gives God full credit, know what King Nebuchadnezzar dreamt and then interpret it. Mm-hmm. And he became an advisor to a series of 4 kings. dreams are important. I mean, they give guidance where we really don't know what we're doing. So.
Well, the stories are fascinating, and the stories and the dreams drive the narrative of your journey. It's really it makes it very readable and very digestible, if you will. That they come in and they Velcro to your consciousness. So, just one last question: why do you feel the world needs your book now more than ever?
Well, I always was aware of sadness, if you want to call it that, of a lot of people. But I think in COVID, it has just ratcheted up. I mean, people are lonely and depressed and anxious, and, you know, there's discord and yet they have time. Some people do. Right. So it's a good time, perhaps, for a book that addresses some of those needs. And my hope is that people can follow along and honor their own dreams and honor their own seeking, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good. Well, where can people find out more about you and the book you're writing and so forth?
Well, it's not published yet, soon to be published, but they could email me. It's my name, laurel.hobbs@rogers.com. So it's LAUREL HOBBS @Rogers, ROGERS.com.
Very good. Well, I find your book fascinating. It's a really good read. And I encourage people, if you're looking for inspiration, hope, direction, wisdom, insight, little epiphanies that you'll have as you read it, I really encourage you to get a copy and get in touch with Laurel. A really beautiful woman that's doing some really beautiful work in the world. So thank you for joining me, Laurel. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And for all of you watching, thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back next week with another guest who will uplift you and inspire you, motivate you, and share some wisdom with you. And until then, please stay safe and stay healthy.